Hello guys, how are you all? Welcome to my channel. So, today we are gonna see, what if Naruto falls in love with Wonder Woman, episode 1. Subscribe if you enjoyed the video, let's start the story. Naruto never had an easy life or fair for that matter. He always seemed to have things go wrong at the most critical times. It was almost as if fate really didn't like him. The village always treated him like he was worthless. He often wondered why in the world he did so many things to help them. As the years went by, his life became harder and harder. He found the worst thing he ever expected. His wife is in bed with the man he once considered his brother. Sasuke was in bed making love to Hinata, and they were so blatant about it that they never shut the door to the bedroom. That was the last straw. He was not going to stick in the village a second longer. He just walked into the bedroom, went to his closet, and picked his clothes, and packed them into his scroll. Don't mind me team, just packing my things, and you can pretty much stay in the house. Consider it my wedding gift. Hinata has a happy life, and doesn't bother coming to look for me. I will kill anyone in this cesspool that even tries to come to find me. They were still naked, and making love when they heard these words. He walked over to his desk, and pushed a button. He took all his scrolls, and was muttering while he did it. The kids have black hair because of my side of the family. Boy am I a sucker. No wonder they never respected me. He was walking out the door when he saw Sasuke dressed. You can hate me Naruto, but in a way I did you a favor. What do you plan to do now? He looked at him, and he did something he never did before. He dropped the seal on himself, and his entire face began to change. This spiky hair became short and shoulder length. The color looked like it turned red, and his eyes turned as black as a starless night. His head had 6 horns, 3 on each side, and his face, the whisker marks, were gone. Naruto was so angry that he unintentionally activated his eyes. The silver color of his eyes caught him by surprise. It was a fabled Rinnegan in full glory. To tell you the truth, cousin, I don't know. I really don't know. All I know is that I will not spend a second longer in this damn village. First I lose Makoto to that bastard that was your father. Now I lose Hinata, the girl that supposedly loved me from our academy days. Tsunade is gone, and so is the pervy sage. I got nothing left in this place. I guess I will visit mom. I can stay there till I know you, and the rest of this world is gone. Sasuke decided to break a promise to his father at that moment. Naruto Akatsuki, you are wrong about one thing. I am not the son of Fugaku Uchiha, and Itachi was not either. We are both your sons. Mother loved you till the day she died. She said that maybe someday you two can finally be together. Naruto left, as his seal became active, and he looked like the blonde guy he was supposed to be. Naruto jumped over the walls, and began to walk towards the valley of the end. A large purple portal appeared, and a black-skinned man appeared. So you finally saw the truth. It took you long enough to figure it out, brother. Come, mother is waiting to hear how your life with these mortals has been. Don't give me that look. You know I would never tell her about your life. I respect your privacy after all. Naruto took off his seal for good, and he handed him his bag. He changed into his Anbu gear, and strapped his mask to his waist. I knew that you were keeping an eye on me, Zetsu. Thanks for doing that, brother. He walked in, as Zetsu was laughing. Of course I kept an eye on you, brother. What kind of brother would I be if I didn't care about my brother? Kaguya looked rather relaxed, as she was sipping her tea, and was patiently waiting for the day to arrive. So finally got sick of living with the mortals, did you, son? I told Shinju that it was bound to happen. They were never that big in the concept of loyalty. I told you that when I tried to put them into the eternal. You are just like your big brothers. They too tried to promote peace. You finally get it soon. As long as individuals live in their own personal desires, conflict will always exist. Peace is a lie, my son, there is only passion. Naruto sat down on the big cushion next to his mother's. I get it, I get it. It is not something that can be learned easily or feel nice learning. I do get it. Now how about you give your long-lost son a hug, and tell me what I am going to do with myself. I am not helping that village or the rest of the nations, so I got nothing but free time. Kaguya finished her cup of tea, and smiled at her boy. For once you are going to do some actual training, and not the joke the village made you do. After a few thousand years or so soon you will be ready to live your life, as a sage of the 6 paths should. Don't you worry, I have been preparing for this day to come. The training was harsh, but if life was harsh, why should his training be any different? He kept on training day after day, and time began to simply fly by. The time he spent recuperating from his exhaustion he spent talking with his mother and brother. They found the things he went through to be rather funny at times. After such a long time he finally decided that his training was complete. His mother and brother agreed. They did however know he would need to have better clothes than what he wore. They prepared a replacement set of clothes that would never wear out. They were mostly black with several plates of red armor on the pants and vest, fingerless gloves, and black boots, both reinforced with the red metal. His vest had a black hood that he could pull up, and, as he did, the head became reinforced with the red metal plating. His sword was a black katana with a blood-colored hilt. His twin red trench knives were strapped to his hips. Kaguya told him if he ever became tired of the mortal world he could return to her and Zetsu. I am your mother Naruto. I will always be glad to receive you back home with open arms. Do try to make friends with Naruto. Life can be lonely in the mortal world without them. Naruto, having abandoned his disguise, he smiled at his mother. I know, mother, don't you worry. I know Zetsu will keep an eye on me. Naruto was gone, and she could not help but to wish that he also would find one woman that loved him, just a fraction of how much she loved him. Zetsu wished his brother good luck. The landmass had gone through a rather interesting change. He just kept walking on the ocean, as he enjoyed the feel of the water. He did so enjoy that he could walk, jump, and slide through the surface without worrying about anyone bothering him. In truth, he was being watched by someone, and that someone had enough of this man walking on his domain without as much as a greeting. The ruler of that domain was a man by the name of Poseidon. He was one of 3 brothers, and sons of the long-dead titan Cronus. He decided to see what this man was planning to do, and to introduce himself, since the red-haired man clearly had no idea he was there, or that the domain he walked on was actually his. He rose from the water, and formed a human-sized version of himself. Would you mind not kicking the waves that hard? They send ripples down to my home, and I am having a rather tough time sleeping during my nap. I am Poseidon, by the way, and you are. Naruto was surprised, and he fell down into the water. He finally got out of it, and dried himself off. Naruto Akatsuki. Nice domain you have, Poseidon. I have to tell you, I am loving what you did with the water. It is so much easier to control, and walk on. Now I know you are busy, but I do need to find a place to settle. Build a home, you understand. That was when he realized that this man was actually trying to get his attention when he was doing those things. He could not help but to laugh. Oh, is that all? Sure, I know this little land over that way. It has lovely beaches, and plenty of stone for you to make a home out of. Come follow me, I will show the place. I am sure you are going to love it. As they walked to the place, they chatted about many things, and by the time they made it to the place, which was a rather nice island, the two became good friends. I should probably introduce you to my brothers, but first I should let you settle in. I will bring plenty of fish, so don't worry about the meat. You might need to grow some fruits and grains. One of my brothers is a big eater after all. He made a few thousand shadow clones, and began constructing a rather nice mansion on the island using elemental manipulation. After he was done, and the clones banished, he had to admit it was a rather nice humble home. He grew some fruits and vegetables as he got comfortable in his new home. He had a quick nap, and the thing that woke him up was the annoying sound of thunder. Thunder without a cloud in the sky. This had better be a joke, because I don't find it funny at all. He got up and walked towards where the sound was coming from. That was when he saw 2 men fighting each other in front of his home. Okay, who was the genius that decided to fight in my garden? You don't introduce yourselves, and the first thing you do is kill most of my garden. Just who are you, and why are you fighting in the first place? The 2 men didn't even answer his questions. That was when his new friend arrived with plenty of fish, as he promised. Don't tell me, my brothers were roughhousing in your garden, and they didn't introduce themselves or ask permission, did they? I apologize for their rudeness towards Naruto. The man in the black robe is my brother Hades, and the one in white is my other brother Zeus. Naruto helped with a load of fish, and thanked his friend. I am Naruto Akatsuki. Now if you will excuse me, I had this lovely dinner planned for us, but since you 2 destroyed my garden, I will have to regrow those trees. Sorry if the dinner will be a little late, my friend, but if you want to have someone to blame, then feel free to blame your brothers. Hades stretched out his hand, and all the dead trees came back to life, as if nothing happened. You are in the right to be upset. I would be too if someone damaged my home. You really need to have someone watch out, as a guard here. Humans can be so inconsiderate, and rather selfish, just like my brother. Hades was clearly talking about Zeus, since he was looking at him when he finished saying that. Why should I apologize to a mere mortal that somehow befriended our brother? I am the king of the gods, and so I can do whatever I so happen to wish to do. Poseidon and Hades were shaking their heads at this. Naruto knew that he didn't want him to show up and do this again. He decided to give him a formal introduction. There are several wrong things you said about me. First, I am no mortal. Second, no matter what you are or who you are, you need to respect other people's home or others will not respect yours. Lastly, I am a little busy, so I will give you a formal introduction during dinner. Now if you will excuse me, I need to cook for 4 people, and, as I've been told, one is a big eater. With a single hand sign he made thousands of clones, and they took care of preparing the dinner. As the 4 men sat down, and he set the biggest plate in front of Zeus, he began his formal introduction, as his black clothing began to change, and showed the red plating on it. I am Naruto Akatsuki, also known as the son of the 2 primordials, Kaguya primordial of chaos, and Shinju primordial of order. I am the 3rd son, and primordial of peace. My eldest brother is the primordial of justice, and my second brother is the primordial of wisdom. Now let's sit before this food grows cold. Hades found this to be quite funny, since his brother almost looked troubled by the realization that the primordials were very much alive. Poseidon decided to start the dinner conversation. Naruto, if you represent peace, why do you wear armored clothes and have weapons? Poseidon asked him, but his brother decided to guess. because peace is often paid in blood. He might be the primordial of peace, but he is also the one for war if I am not mistaken. Nice looking sword by the way. I got a nice scythe so maybe we can spar after dinner. I like to work out after dinner. Naruto smiled, and indeed nodded his head in agreement. Hades speaks true. I do represent both peace and war, but war in his human world needs very little in a way of influencing it. I merely try to keep it honorable. Two groups of humans given enough time they will start a war for the smallest of disagreements. Peace is harder to maintain than war after all. The only thing Zeus seemed to agree with was that the food was wonderful. I should really ask you to share these recipes with my wife. Hera would simply love to learn new recipes. Zeus began to understand him more and more. He actually told him he would have very little to actually worry about. Their pantheon was actually doing a pretty good job of taking care of the mortal plane. So he didn't really need to do as much as he once had to do. Hades said it in another way, he is pretty much saying that his children and other relatives have complete control of both domains, and since they are good at their duties in both domains, you have an ungodly amount of free time to enjoy your never-ending life. Personally, I call that being sentenced to a life of boredom. But then again, I do have a massive library you can borrow books from. His two brothers glared at Hades when he said that. Zeus was the only one to actually say anything about it. Hold on Hades, we both asked to borrow books, scrolls, and other reading materials from you, and you have denied us every time. You offered to let him borrow books to a person you just met. Poseidon indeed wanted to know the reason. Hades was very straightforward on his reason. Brothers, I have let you both borrow a book or scroll from my library, and in these thousands of years when have you ever tried to return them? Never, that is when. I allow him to borrow things from my library because I have a feeling that he will return them. Hades became good friends with him, and even made an entrance to his domain on the island Naruto built his home. Naruto eventually had more and more Olympian guests, and so he was in need to expand his island home. Poseidon actually helped him when it came to the building. Hera almost seemed to have developed quite the crush on him, as they both enjoyed the art of preparing meals. His library of recipe books was one reason she enjoyed spending time on his island home. The other was that Naruto was actually very supportive and offered moral and emotional support to those that needed it. Hera more times than the other goddesses, but then again Hera was married to what she called the horned dog of the gods. Zeus was quite the womanizer it seems, and he would use anything he could think of to sleep with a beautiful lady. Hera was considered the goddess of marriage for goodness sake. The fact that her husband spent more time cheating on her than actually spending time with her or their children would have made her quite the vengeful and resentful goddess. Good thing that he was there to offer her a shoulder to cry on. Time progressed, and they became good friends except for two deities. Zeus became quite distant with him when he imprisoned Hades because he believed that his brother was trying to steal his throne. This was preposterous, and Naruto mentioned it every chance he got. The man was locked into his domain on the eve of his honeymoon. The other person that Naruto kept avoiding, as if she had a contagious disease, was Aphrodite. The goddess of love seemed to find it quite a challenge to find some way for Naruto to experience romance. He spent most of his days training, reading, and learning, but not dating, and that was not something she was willing to stand. The lady was beautiful, there is no arguing with that, but she was stubborn. Naruto, why will you not consider going out on a date? I happen to know a thing about love, you know. I imagine there are millions of women that would simply love to be in a relationship with you. Naruto looked at her that one night and said to her quite plainly, even if I date or even marry, those women would grow old, wither, and die. I already went through that once, and I don't plan on doing it again. My wife Makoto was the light of my world. I will never wear anything other than my armor, and I have done so since the day she died. She jumped at a perceived chance and told him she was available. She could date him, even marry him. My family believes that cheating is a fatal sin. If I marry and my wife cheats on me, I would be honored to kill her. From that day on he kept avoiding her every time she came to his island or he went to Olympus. It was one day that Zeus did the other thing Hera never forgave him about. After thousands and thousands of years he passed a judgment that Naruto was forbidden to enter Olympus. The reason that he accused Naruto of actually having an affair with his wife. It was preposterous and untrue. She would gladly say she loved him dearly, but that was to be expected, as he was her only emotional support. She loved him as her dearest and most trusted friend. In the end, a deal was made between Naruto and Zeus. He would leave his island to his friend's wife, and Hades was allowed to exit his realm one day per month. He would not be allowed to leave the island, and the only man that was ever allowed on it was Naruto. Hades did not like this one bit, as this was pretty much making Naruto sacrifice the home he built with his two hands. Naruto, why are you accepting this? This will make you homeless, and a wanderer for a very long time. Why do you accept such an unfair one-sided deal? Naruto in full gear and armor looked at his friend and smiled. I may not find love, my friend, but you have. This deal will let you experience the happiness I once had. I wish you and your wife happiness. Persephone looked at him as he was about to leave and decided to tell him to delay his departure. He did as she asked since she was a good friend as well. Naruto, for your sacrifice I make this vow. Should one of my daughters ever find in her heart love for you, should she ever fall in love with you, that daughter will have my blessing and my husband's to marry you. Hades made a promise as well. To you, my friend, and more loyal than my own brother to me. I give you 13 pits where my waters will flow and be purified there. Should you need healing or a rest bath in those waters, my friend, they shall heal you of all injuries. He thanked them both as he stepped off his island after so many years of calling the place home. He began to walk until he crossed the ocean. In his travels, he helped people, and these people told him they were going to a new world. That sounded exciting, so why wouldn't he keep traveling on these ships? He made it to the new world, and he tried his best to make the interaction between the explorers and the natives as easy as possible. Thanks to his abilities, he could read the minds of the natives, and thus learn their languages. Columbus turned out to be a true friend, but his men did not. They told him if he did not, as the queen ordered, his family would be dead. It was under this threat that he was forced to pillage and steal from the people he once considered his friends. These actions angered Naruto. Christopher asked him to leave them to their fates. So it came to be that from that day onwards the crew of the 3 ships lost his protection. He grew sick of the place, and began to wonder about the land. He learned any language he came across, and finally decided to settle down. It turns out the gold rush was happening, or so they called it. The place he lived was a small village in the place they called the territories. He was good friends with the local tavern owner, a man by the name of Matthias Wayne, and his wife Bertha. Thanks to the gold trade, the tavern did plenty of business selling drinks, renting rooms to rest, and even supplies to prospectors. Naruto was named the official sheriff of the town. The name of the town was in the bright language of his wife. In time people began to call it the town of Gotham. Naruto, you do dang good work as our sheriff. Tell me why in tarnation will you still not accept a salary for your work? I have still to figure out how you keep yourself fed and clothed. Naruto looked at him and smiled. Look, Matt, I am plenty happy to see the people that settle here are good and honest folk. As long as I can see your boys and girls grow up to be mighty fine people, I call myself paid in full. Now tell me, you making that pie for this year too? Matthias laughed as he heard the question. Naruto, you know damn well I always make apple pie for Thanksgiving. I expect you to come and be ready to strap on the old feed bag. My kids will want to spend some time with their godfather after all. Naruto laughed as he looked at the empty cells in the local jail. I reckon I am not that busy, and so you better believe I will be there to give you and your wife a hand. Just remember one thing, I need to place a flower on my marker that day, so I might arrive by noon. Matthias laughed and told him even if he arrived in the dead of the night, he would have a plate waiting for him. Just make sure to show up, he said, as Matthias walked out of Naruto's office laughing as he walked his way home. The kids downright loved the guy. Bertha always was busy, and with 3 boys and 2 girls that were to be expected. Matthias often saw his friend help them out when he was done in the day's patrol, as he called it. That Thanksgiving dinner was probably the best he ever had in his life, with exception to the one he had with Makoto once, but who would forget the day his first son was conceived on top of his kitchen table. Bertha, I don't care what others say, this pie should be added to the tavern menu. I kid you not, it is the sweetest thing I ever tasted. Her children agreed. Matthias was smiling as he said that. He had been trying to get his wife to make food for their family tavern for a long time. You really think people would want to eat food in a tavern? I mean, most guys have their wives do that for them. Who would eat in the tavern? Bertha asked him as she toyed with her mashed potatoes. Off the top of my head, travelers, bachelors, mine workers, construction workers, traders, and the occasional carpetbagger. Not everyone is as lucky to have a loving wife like Matthias is after all. Bertha smiled at hearing the compliments. That Annie May seems to be wanting to claim you for herself if the way she looks at you is any indication. Naruto nearly choked on his juice when she said that. Dr. May is a nice enough gal, but I am older than she thinks. It wouldn't be fair to her. I already buried one wife. I don't want to do that again, thank you for caring, though. Matthias and Bertha always wanted to know who this woman was, but as far as they knew him, he would never tell them anything about it. He would always say it was simply too painful to mention. Since he said that about Ms. May, he knew they would never let up. I just hope you two never have to go through what I did. There is no pain in the entire world that can match the pain of having to organize the funeral of your own children or the words to describe it. They did ask him how many kids he did that for. In a very heartfelt moment, he had to do that twice in a row. His son Itachi and Sasuke both died on the same day. Sorry to make you remember that. I guess you still need to find the right woman for yourself. It would be a waste to let such a nice guy remain single. Now I know we just ate, but would you mind helping with the dishes? Matthias said he was dead-beat tired from the work at the family tavern. Naruto told him he would take care of it. It was the least he could do after they fed him such a wonderful dinner after all. As he was drying the last pot, he heard a voice from outside. Sheriff, we got a problem. Mad Dog and his gang are hitting the town bank. He dried his hands on the apron before he took it off, and excused himself for the racket the person outside was making. Matthias was standing with his rifle as he was walking out the door. Your family saves Matthias. I will take care of those troublemakers if things go, as I expect the coffin maker is going to be mighty glad. As he ran outside he made several dozen shadow clones, and he decided to walk up the town main road to see Mad Dog dismount his horse, and look at him with a smile on his face. Sorry to ruin your Thanksgiving, Sheriff. We all know how you enjoy the pie that German cows make. My boys and I are just making a withdrawal from the local bank. Naruto cracked his knuckles. Now I told you a few times before Tannen that I don't appreciate you insulting women. I also know you and your men don't have an account with the bank or any form of law-abiding work. So I am giving you a chance to get from my town, or so help me. I will bury a lot of you in the town's cemetery. One of the men decides to tell him what everyone was thinking of his threat. Is this coming from the pansy sheriff who doesn't even have a deputy? Boss, how about we kill this fool and take everything that isn't nailed down? Tannen looked at his man and began to laugh. You know, Sheriff, I don't say this often, but my man does have a point. What is keeping us from killing you, robbing, and pillaging this town to the ground, and leaving you for buzzard food? Naruto looked at him and glared at him. You can try to be sure, but I will bury the lot of you the second you do. He walked up to him and spat on the ground as he glared at him. Tannen didn't like that. No, he didn't like that one bit. Men, let us hang the sheriff, rape the woman, and steal everything worth a damn. The men pulled out a gun when they did. However, several daggers were seen being thrown at them and stabbing them in the heart. Tannen was cut from the belly to the neck by Naruto, and he died right on the spot. The entire town saw as he alone took down the most vicious gang in the territories. He helped the coffin maker and gave them all a fair, decent burial. A lot more dissent that the people in town believed the gang deserved. Thanks to this action, his strength was known throughout the region and beyond. Whenever a gang or a group of killers even mentioned making themselves famous or infamous, depending on who listened, by tracking the town of Gotham, they only said the one comment that was true for years to come. If you attack the town of Gotham and its people, it's your funeral. Nobody, and I mean nobody, who attacks those folks makes it out of there alive. In time, Martha and Bertha passed on, and Naruto was sad to see them be buried in the town's cemetery. Their children understood seeing the proud sheriff in tears as they laid their parents into their grave. Don't you worry, Godfather, we are here. We will always welcome you in our homes. Naruto lived in that town as the sheriff and protector of that community for decades and then centuries. It was a request of a descendant of Matthias that asked him to finally give up his position as sheriff. The small town, thanks to the safe feeling of the place, had grown to be a rather nice city. Anthony told him they needed a much larger police force than just one man. Naruto had no choice but to listen to his request. Gotham was initially built by his ancestor Matthias and Bertha, and so he would respect their wish. He left the town in secret and was never seen again. The people were surprised that the descendant of the person they believed was the descendant of the first sheriff was gone. With his ability to transform his appearance, he would pretend to be the child of the sheriff, and when it came time, he would have a fake funeral using a shadow clone. For centuries, the people of the town believed the position of sheriff had been passed down from father to son. As he began to walk towards the first tree he made, he smiled. My apple tree, Bertha, made her apple pies with these apples. In the end, my friend was right, she was the best cook in the entire territory. I hope her descendants still have the skill that she had, and keep the old inn going. It was then that he felt that something was not right. He knew immediately that something was wrong. He began to run at the speed of sound towards the ocean, and began to run on the surface of the ocean, till he reached his island. The island grew somewhat since the last time he saw it. The stealth seals were still active by the looks of it. When he jumped from the ocean to the surface, a group of armored women holding everything between spears to swords ran to where he landed. Leave or die. This island forbids your kind from walking on it. The woman held a spear and glared at him. She clearly was not joking. You have your facts wrong. I am the original owner of this island. I let Persephone and her husband live here as my wedding gift. You, on the other hand, I give one of three choices. 1. You take me to see my friend Persephone. 2. You try to attack me, and I will throw you into the ocean. 3. Let me pass, and see what is wrong with my friend. Those are the choices. You have 10 seconds to decide your fates. The woman holding the spear said he didn't mention the option of him leaving, and promised not to tell off the island. It was when he counted to 5 that Persephone looked at him and smiled. Naruto, what a pleasant surprise. It has been years since I last saw you. You are in good health. What brings you back to the island? He ignored the glare by the women, and he walked over to his friend. Persephone, as lovely as the day I saw you get married. I had a feeling something was wrong with Hades, and so I had to come. These girls seem to think I am not welcomed. I have no idea why that is. Persephone laughed as he said that. You have been away an awfully long time, my friend. They had to deal with Vikings, pirates, and all sorts of men that tried to invade. This left them a bit bitter towards me. Now enough of that, and give me a hug. Naruto hugged her very much like he was to her. A dear friend that came to visit after a very long time. The Amazons, however, didn't like it one bit. Naruto walked towards the seal gate to the underworld. The key he used was a special kind since it was a bracelet for most people, but the minute he used his chakra the bracelet would change into the key. He opened the lock and waited to hear the gate finish opening. The Amazons didn't think what he said was true, but here was a man that was standing at the very gates to the underworld, and he looked as relaxed as a person watching the sunset. He stepped through the black swirling vortex, and the gate closed. He really must be in a hurry. I would imagine he would like to see his grove before leaving the island, Persephone said, as if she was merely saying the obvious. One Amazon asked her what she meant by his grove. That's right, you and the others don't know this. The place we get our food from. The grains and fruits that grow on this island. He was the one to plant them. We live with all this food because he made such a wonderful grove on this island. She began to walk back home and said, we might not die on this island, but we would have starved were it not for my friend's effort. Naruto expected to be greeted by Cerberus, but the fact he was not there made him worry that much more. Hades seemed to be looking after a much smaller Cerberus. I knew that you would eventually get my message. I do wish you came sooner. A man came calling himself a necromancer. He poisoned me and Cerberus. He then stole a book from my library. Naruto began to look at them both, and he didn't like what he was seeing. This is the venom of a hydra. This will be painful, but I will get it out of both of you now. What book did this rude necromancer steal anyways? Hades said his name was Faust, and he stole a book called The Truth in Stars. He used the yin-yang release to draw out all the negative effects of the poison, and the poison itself. Hades, that is ridiculous. You know very well I wrote that thing to give you something to laugh at. The entire thing is practically a joke. There is nothing useful in that book, and we both know it, don't we, Cerberus? The dog looked better, and he gave him a lick from each of his heads. I am happy that you are feeling well, boy. I hope I made it in time. I wouldn't want you to miss your day with Persephone because of this fool. Hades laughed, and told him not to worry about it not going to happen for a couple of weeks. The real question is, why are you still single, Naruto? I know that there are some rather nice human females in that town you helped build. Why don't you settle down and enjoy life? He got up and walked towards the table where his friend was seated in a chair next to it. I told you this before, Hades. I will not marry till I find a woman that can live as long as I can. I don't ever want to endure the feeling of having to bury my wife again. I am happy that you will never have to do this. Hades had some tea prepared. If I could, Naruto, I would draw out your beloved Makoto and reunite you with the mother of your children. However, you know as well as I do that I am not allowed. Only fate can do that when they choose to let a soul reincarnate. I tend to the souls of the virtuous and punish the souls of the wicked. Sadly, that is all I can do. After he spent some time making Hades laugh at the things he did while Sheriff bid him and his faithful hound a fond farewell, Cerberus accompanied him to the exit and opened the gate. Keep him safe, boy. Try to make him feel that he has a friend here with him. This place will depress anyone, I am no exception. The three-headed hound nodded their heads, and each gave him a lick and rubbed their heads against his head. Good, I knew that I can count on you. He walked out of the gate and found that an entire group of Amazons was waiting for him. Hare, help me. Do I have to fight you idiots to be able to spend some quality time with my friend? Honestly, if I was like the idiot my friend is married to, I would kick you off my island and forbid you to even set foot on it again. You should be thankful I am the nice and merciful guy that I am. Persephone arrived laughing as she heard that comment. I am sure she is actually blushing quite brightly, as she no doubt heard those remarks. They're here to see if you need medical attention. We both know traveling in the underworld is never pleasant. Naruto walked towards her and smiled. The evil souls of the dead would escape if it was a walk in the park. It is not pleasant, but it does have a purpose. How about we have some tea, and you tell me how your life has been so far? Persephone had to agree that it would be quite lovely if he did that. The two sat down after he prepared the tea. Naruto, I knew you for years. When will you tell me the answer to the question I asked on my wedding day? How's a warm, caring, and tender man like you still single? I imagine there would be dozens of beautiful ladies that would fight over the chance to marry you. Naruto took a sip from his tea and saw the Amazon train. Those women training would gladly contradict you. I think they would rather fight for the joy of trying to kill me instead. Persephone asked him to answer her question. It has been bugging her a lot. Very well, but keep it secret. She promised that she would. The truth is I was married once, to the one person I loved more than anything. My beloved wife was a member of the Uchiha clan. Her name was Makoto, and she was the light of my very soul. My hair, you always knew it as black, haven't you? In truth it was silver white when I was with her. He touched his armor and looked at her. Even my armor and weapons have changed. I lost the light of my soul, and my heart has grown colder than it once was. One of her clan used a technique to make her think she was her husband. He tricked her and threatened our children. I was transformed into a child and was subjected to horrors by the village we lived in. Naruto was remembering her death, and tears began to flow from his eyes. The man who brainwashed my wife later killed her, and my eldest son killed him. He had to escape and live as a criminal. I married through an arranged marriage that was made to marry a woman by the name of Hinata. My youngest son took it upon himself to wake me from my delusion sleeping with my wife. I knew then that she really never loved me. Persephone was not expecting this at all. She expected him to tell her he was simply too shy, or he didn't want to make the ladies hurt when they grew older, and he didn't. Naruto was not done. My sons killed each other because Sasuke was lied to by a member of the village council. He told my youngest that his brother had killed many innocent people beside Fugakure. They killed each other out of the need for revenge. Persephone saw the tears, and knew the pain must have been severe for him to cry like that. I am sorry I made you remember. I now understand the reason. You still love her, don't you? Even if she is dead you still love Makoto, your soulmate. I guess I understand. I feel the same about Hades. I see him one day a month thanks to you. So my situation is not as bad as yours. Naruto decided to make her laugh by telling her tales of the time he spent as a lawman. Naturo, the domain of justice is the domain of Zeus. You do remember that, don't you? You two hate each other. How can you possibly be a lawman and do something that would benefit the person you actually hate? Naruto just told her he didn't do it for him, he did it for the people that were suffering without someone to keep the peace and order. She was happy to see her friend was actually trying to find a way to keep his mind off the pain of his past. One day Naruto, your beloved will be reborn, and you will find that light once again. When you do, you have to invite me to the wedding. I would like to see how you looked when you still had the light that is her love in your soul. Naruto said that he spent years looking for her, but so far she was nowhere to be found. Sometimes in Naruto you find a treasure when you actually stop looking for it. Thank you for being such a great friend, Persephone. I guess I will try to find a new place to live. I hear the gold prospectors are also digging in a few other places. I guess I could try being sheriff in one of those towns. She told him why not go back to Gotham, but this time, try something more peaceful. You are good at healing, Naruto. Why don't you be a healer? I am sure people there would be glad to have you keep them healthy. Naruto had to admit he never thought of that, and so he decided to become a healer. He said his farewells, and the few Amazons present said good riddance till Persephone reminded them he was good friends with her husband and herself. To think carefully before they make either of them angry. By the time he made it back to Gotham it was a small city, and with no healers or, as he preferred to be called, doctors, he came at a good time. A disease began to spread, and it was easily spread. It would cause deaths by the thousands worldwide. It would be called the first influenza epidemic. Thanks to Naruto's talents, Gotham suffered the least deaths since he arrived. The appreciation felt by the survivors made them realize that the profession of medicine was indeed an honorable and merciful profession. The university that had just opened decided to open the first ever medical school. Naruto began to teach there in his spare time. He taught them every manner of healing which did not require chakra. Humans seemed to have lost the ability to make energy. His teaching began to spread, and soon enough the university became world recognized, and soon people across the ocean came to study at Gotham University Medical School. Midwives became nurses, as the doctors that graduated made childbirth immensely safer and less painful for the mothers, and thus the chances of a baby not being born alive became less and less. The next thing that spread was the practice of performing a surgery when it was clear that the child was not going to be able to be born through the birth canal. The procedure is not without risks, but if it was not done the mother and child could die, as it had happened before. Dr. Akatsuki became quite a popular doctor for general problems, and especially for women's health. There was one thing that he, however, would not stand for, and was liable to beat the person who dared do that in his clinic or in front of him. The thing he hated was what he called spousal abuse. He put it quite plainly to a man who slapped his wife for arguing against something that was clearly stupid. The man tried to slap his pregnant wife again, but this time, Naruto caught the man's hand. You hit her again, and you can kiss eating solid food goodbye. Are we clear? The idiot said she was his wife, and thus he could do whatever he wished to her. He did slap her again to prove his point. Naruto walked over, as if he was going to do it again. His hand became covered by a metal coating, and with the hand covered like it was, he slapped her husband hard enough to send him flying across the room and into a wall. Naruto walked over to the wall and pulled him out. Are we clear? He asked, his eyes showing a dead serious glare, and his normal black eyes became silver with rings showing in his eyes. Yes, doctor, I promise I won't do it again. He healed the man since he saw he was not lying. You love your wife, or otherwise, you wouldn't have married her. You can argue with each other. You may have different points of view, but since you love her, value her opinion as well. Listen to her, and try to come up with a solution that both can agree with. The men who listened realized that the doctor was right. It was stupid beyond belief to harm the woman who they loved for something as petty as hearing an opinion that was not what they decided in the first place. They had a partner, not a blind obedient slave. The final straw in this was when someone told him he was not even married. Since he was not married, he didn't know what the hell he was talking about, and so he should not give advice about things he looked too young to even know about. He stepped close to the man who said that, and he did something nobody expected. He told them something deeply personal. I was married for over 10 years. My wife was murdered, and my children due to depression killed each other. Now I will tell you that no pain compares to having to bury your own children. So when I speak of marriage I know what I am talking about, and thank you ever so much for the salt for my old wound. I hope you are happy. The man, and those that had agreed with him, regretted having said that to him. It was clearly an old wound that still caused him pain. They each looked at their wives, and imagined what life would be without them. They each fell on their knees, and begged their wives to forgive them, and each woman kissed her husband, and told him that of course they would forgive their husbands. They loved them after all. Dr. Akatsuki kept on doing his research to improve the old formulas, and the old techniques. He kept looking for the elusive cure-all pill. As a deity he could have willed it into being, but where is the challenge, and fun in doing that? The easy path may seem the best, but an achievement that was earned easily would never feel as good as one that was earned. Persephone was right about trying something other than law enforcement. He was quite happy to see the smiling faces of a patient and their families when he cured them. It made his day when he gave hope to a young couple the chance to be truly happy. His days didn't feel as long anymore because of his schedule. The life of a doctor can be quite hectic, and if you couple that with his own classes he taught at medical school, it would make people wonder how he kept up with things. He was seen only drinking tea after all, and he rarely went out to eat. The students were too focused to really pay attention, and the others in the hospitals simply were too busy with home and the hospitals. Gotham in the span of 30 years had 8 hospitals, and had grown to be 1 million people in population. It was no wonder since the city was probably the best place to study medicine. As the years went by, he would pretend that he was the child, and later descendant of Naruto, meaning himself. He managed to keep appearances, and thanks to the henge technique he was able to keep this up for a very long time. War finally came, and he didn't enjoy this one bit. The First World War, or, as people called it, the war to end all wars. Naruto, of course, knew better. He was sent as a field doctor, and boy were the doctors in the field hospital happy to have someone as talented as him. One day the so-called enemy tried to attack the field hospital. Naruto didn't like this one bit. The attacking of non-combatants was not something he was willing to let happen. He was able and willing to teach the enemy a valuable lesson in morals. He told the doctors and nurses to stay in the field hospital. He would take care of the rude people outside. As he walked out he made a hand sign, and a small group of enemy soldiers and an officer were unaware they had been surrounded and outnumbered 10 to 1. He walked calmly and looked at the officer. "Colonel, to what do we owe this unexpected visit? I see your men are quite healthy." The colonel was surprised by his fluency in speaking German. He told him that he didn't come to visit. He was ordered to destroy the field hospital and kill everyone that worked there. Naruto saw that he didn't even apologize for saying such a thing. "Colonel, as a doctor I swear to save lives, but in the spirit of that oath, I am telling you and your men to leave. I will be forced to do something that you and your men will not survive. This is my final warning. Return to your general and tell him I don't appreciate the attacking of non-combatants." The colonel must have found it extremely funny because he laughed at the notion that a single man could take his unit out. He looked at Naruto with a sneer and said to him to do his worst. Naruto put his fingers in his mouth and made a whistling sound. In less than a second, the unit began to hear screams from their fellow soldiers, and in minutes the only ones still standing was the colonel and Naruto. He held the colonel by placing a trench knife to his throat. "It seems my hounds had their dinner. I always keep them guarding this field hospital, just in case someone does something like this." The colonel asked why he didn't kill him like he killed his men. Naruto looked at him with such color intent the colonel was not frightened. "Didn't I tell you to go back and tell your general that I don't appreciate it when you come to try and disrupt my hospital? Of course, if you are ever injured and need healing be sure to come unarmed and I will heal you. Now off you go, Colonel. I don't want my message to get to the general late." The colonel ran like he was running away from the very gates of hell. He calmly walked over to the crying doctors and nurses who heard the enemy dying. "Now that is taken care of, what are we having for lunch?" They all got up and stared at him in disbelief. He went to the place where they were having their lunch, and they still were staring at him. Why so serious? "Your food will get cold, you know. We should really thank the cook. This soup is excellent." They couldn't help but feel that Naruto was quite used to seeing people die, and even killing. A fellow doctor and a nurse sat down with him. "Naruto, how can you be so used to death? I never knew this field hospital had guard dogs." The nurse said that she was more scared of the guard dogs, since they obviously could eat human flesh. Naruto continues to enjoy his thick creamy potato soup. For one, they are not dogs, they're foxes. Second, they didn't eat those soldiers. They killed them for sure, but they didn't eat them. I am having them dig holes and giving them a nice burial. That is all. They don't kill without my permission, hence the whistle. Naruto took a drink of his water and continued. "As to why I am used to death. I am a doctor and have been one longer than most here. I see death on a daily basis, so I am not so shocked by it. I also have studied quite a few things to defend myself. You know, George, you and your lovely wife should learn to defend yourselves. It is a dangerous world we live in." Nancy had to smile in complete agreement. "I am only happy that we have you to protect us. Why did you accept to come to this hospital, Naruto? A person like you could have stayed in the general hospital in London. Naruto smiled, and did something he always did. He answered honestly, or as honestly as he could. My family has been friends with the Waynes since the foundation of the inn that was the first business in Gotham. I was not about to let George or his lovely wife die if I could prevent it. George said in a joking tone that he should stop flirting with his wife. Naruto turned it right back at him, and said that he better treat her right, or he would take her from him. This made the three of them laugh. The cook, a large muscle man, came and stood by Naruto. Vladimir, I have to tell you, this is by far the best potato casserole I ever had in my life. The thickness, the taste, and the softness of the potatoes are quite excellent. You should consider my advice, and when this sad war is over you should open a restaurant. You do well, I can tell. The man began to laugh. You praise me too much. This is a simple dish that I learned from my grandmama back in the old country. You know, the potato was once called the devil's fruit, you know. It is quite surprising that you can eat something that was once called demonic. Naruto turned to the man. I am not so easily scared of Vladimir. I could go to the underworld on foot and have dinner with Hades and not be scared. This is quite the dish, and I am sure your grandmother is proud that you can make it in her memory. The man thanked him and went back to check on his chicken pot pies. Naruto, he knows so many languages. A man next to George asked him. Naruto simply smiled and said that he liked to study in his spare time. Martha was very happy to tell her husband that she was pregnant. Naruto was having his afternoon coffee when he and George heard his wife tell him. George decided to tease her and ask something he would always remember. Now the only question is, who is the father, me or Naruto? Naruto nearly choked on his coffee when he asked that question. George Wayne, you should be ashamed of asking such a thing. I would never cheat on my wife, and I am sure your wife feels the same. Now apologize for this instant, or my friend. I am afraid the only way you will see your kid is during the weekends when you have visitation time. Martha thanked him for doing that, but she told him it was not necessary. I know George far too well to tell when he is serious, and when he is joking. I do appreciate the support. Now Naruto is this lovely wife you just mentioned. We never got to meet her, and that doesn't seem fair. Naruto took off a pendant from his neck, and inside was a small painted portrait. Martha had to agree she looked lovely. George had to agree. This is Makoto, and the reason you have not met her is quite simple. She has been dead for what feels like thousands of years. Naruto closed the pendant and kissed it. He placed it back around his neck. The gesture spoke loudly to Martha. He still loved her very much. She was dead, and he was still in love with her. I am sorry, I didn't know. How does she die? George looked at him, and he took a last sip out of his coffee cup. My wife was murdered by a man who once tried to marry her for his own financial improvement. I told you two should learn to defend yourselves so that you don't have to go through what I did. This caught them both by surprise. For an instant they actually felt happy that this did not happen to them. How did you two meet? Naruto wished he had not heard Martha ask that question. We grew up in the same town. It was a small community, and thus there were not that many people. She was the daughter of a wealthy store owner, and I was the son of a local cop. We met several times, as kids. We fell in love, and eventually got married. We had 2 boys, Sasuke and Itachi. Our family was wonderful, and I was truly happy. He kept touching the pendants. An accident happened, and both my sons and I fell down a hole in our property. My sons died in the fall, and I was in a coma. By the time I came out of it, my wife was murdered by my best man, and I was alone in the world, wishing I had died too. I miss her something awful, and I can be calm only when I keep my mind busy, so I study. George decided to change the subject. Well, not to put you on the spot, but since you have been a dad, I want to ask you if you will be the godfather to our child. I know that he will be taken care of should something happen to the 2 of us. Naruto looked at him and said that he would always look out for his friends. Martha was happy to hear him say that. The war was soon over, and he couldn't help but to feel a bit disappointed. There were no winners or losers. The darn thing ended in a ceasefire agreement. So many people died, towns, cities destroyed, and it ended in an agreement that basically said each side said that they should stop fighting. He got back to the swing of things pretty quickly, and 9 months later Thomas Wayne was born. The kid looked absolutely cute when they saw him in the arms of Martha. So Naruto, when are you going to start dating again? Martha, and her inappropriate questions, Naruto began thinking. Probably by the time Thomas there is a great-grandfather. I might consider the idea by then. George began laughing, as he heard his friend say that. He punched him on the shoulder, and said then it would not be any time soon. Martha was out of the hospital, and in a few weeks Naruto was doing something he never believed he would ever do again, changing a diaper. I did this before, but I never could figure how something so small could just dump so much into a diaper. I swear that is the nastiest thing I ever smelled, and I cut people open. Martha told him to use plenty of the tissues, and be liberal with his use of the powder. Okay, when albino rear-end is coming up. Martha was surprised how fast he got the diaper changed. Naruto said once she does it enough times she will be able to do it with her eyes closed. What was so great about you, wife, that even though she is dead, you are still hung up in her? Naruto asked if she meant professionally, physically or emotionally. Martha loved to mess with him, so she told him all of the above. Naruto sat down in one of the chairs, as Thomas gave him a cup of tea. Professionally, there was no better teacher than she was. She was kind to all her students, but strict and fair. Physically, she had this long silky hair, a smile that could brighten my worst days, and a body that I never got tired of touching, and sex was phenomenal. This made Thomas blush 3 shades of red, and Martha smiled at him like the cat that just swallowed the canary. Emotionally, she was the light of my very soul, the one to make me happy by being near, the one to always inspire me to be better. I love her, and I am empty without her. Thomas looked at Martha, and then at him. I know exactly what you mean. Life without Martha would seem like it was no longer worth living. You lost your sons, and then your wife. I can't imagine the pain of losing your children. Naruto looked at his friend, and he had a dead serious look on his face. No pain, no matter how horrible, can compare to losing the ones you love, and especially your children. Take care that you don't find out what that feels. It can change a person in ways that can never be expected, and sometimes it unhinges them, and they become monsters. Unknown to Naruto, Persephone, and Hades decided to talk about something that it seems bothered both of them quite a bit. You know, Naruto paid me a visit when he went to see you. I can't believe he is still the same person when he became our friend. I am still angry that Zeus pretty much keeps you locked away from me because he fears you trying to take the throne. I mean, Poseidon is not under the same punishment. Hades smiled at his wife. If it hadn't been for Naruto, we wouldn't even be able to spend a day together like this. I do wonder why he wanted to banish him from ever entering Olympus so much that he accepted this arrangement. Persephone told him she had seen how Hera used to look at Naruto. I swear the way she looked at him with such a happy face. Of course, the paranoid king would think he was trying to steal his wife. Hades was shaking his head as he heard her say that. That is ridiculous. He would only marry his soulmate, and we both know who that is, Makoto, and no one but her. The strange thing is his sons are set to be reincarnated, but for some reason, Makoto isn't able to enter the cycle of reincarnation. It is almost as if Persephone told him that more than likely it was Zeus trying to make Naruto miserable, as his revenge on him. I can get the soul to you, Persephone. The only problem is that since I can only remain out for a single day, I can't make the body or bring the 2 parts together. The only way would be for you to sculpt the body, and Hera to join the soul and the body. Hades said, thinking out loud. Persephone didn't like the idea of their visit being cut short. She did understand that it would be the only way for their friend to be happy, so she begrudgingly agreed. She even called Hera to see if she would agree. The queen didn't look too happy about the idea at first, but once they told her it was to allow Naruto to be with his beloved, Hera agreed to help in this. Persephone made a clay statue of a young girl. It was beautiful, and one could say almost angelic in quality. Hades gave Hera the soul of the one person his friend would love even after her untimely death. Hera used her powers to combine the statue and the soul, and in a flash, where a statue once was, a small black-haired girl stood in his place. She must have looked surprised to see herself, as someone not even in her teens, her short black hair covering her head, seemed to be the only part of herself she recognized. She stretched out her arms, and gave out a brief yawn. So before we get into this, mind telling me who you are? Persephone asked the young girl in front of her. Who am I? I am Makoto Uchiha, of the clan Uchiha. Now if you are so kind, tell me, why do I look like a toddler? And have you seen my husband around? I don't like the idea of being away from him. He tends to be rather in a bad mood when I am not near him. Hades had to admit Hera did good work. Not only did she bring her back to life, but it would seem she has most of her memories. He walked over to her, as Persephone finished giving her a toga to wear. Your husband used to say something downright embarrassing when he talked about you. The reason you are in that form is for you to get acquainted with the world, and maybe get some rehabilitation from years of being dead. Makoto laughed, as she heard him say that. I bet my beloved Naruto is still calling me the light of his soul, isn't he? He is just like that, so tender and sweet. I swear it would practically make my teeth ache when we were dating. Even after seeing me fat as a cow, he never once made me feel that he stopped loving me. We had 2 boys after all. She smiled, as she fondly touched her stomach, which sort of looked weird in her childish form. You must have been very happy in your marriage. I am the goddess of marriage, and I can tell you still love him, don't you? Makoto smiled, and nodded her head. From the day we first met, and even after I was placed in that. I loved my husband even after I died. I was forced to see my husband become a boy again, and even have a relationship with someone else. I knew he had no memory of us, so I never considered it cheating. Persephone told her that Naruto would never explain what happened to them. Makoto sat down, and told them to do the same. I was placed in and was basically in the control of someone else, the man who wished to marry me, to use me as a stepping stone for him to gain power and wealth. He was supposed to be my childhood friend Fugaku. She began drawing a rather intricate circle on the ground. My husband was also placed in one too. He forgot his past, and was forced to become a young boy all over again. This was caused by using an extreme version of a youth seal developed by my good friend Tsunade Senju. Only death freed me from my prison, and Naruto became free after he nearly died himself. Hades had to agree that it was a horrible thing to happen to him. Now it made perfect sense, the reason Naruto sacrificed so much to allow him to be with his wife at least once a day. Naruto has done so much for us, and all because he didn't want us to endure the pain he must have gone through being apart from the woman he loved. Persephone told her that in order to keep Zeus from finding out she was a reincarnation, they would have to give her a new name, and that she would have to pretend to be the daughter of Persephone and her husband. She asked her with a bit of worry in her voice. Do you think you can do that? If you can't, we would have to erase your memories. Zeus would more than likely try and kill you. Makoto laughed as she heard that. Persephone, or should I say mom, I am a fully trained kunoichi. Deception is a ninja's best friend. I can do that as easily as eating an apple with my eyes closed. So what is my new name? I would suggest something strong. But I don't know many of the names that people use in this day and age. Persephone laughed and said that her name would be Diana, and that she would be sure to teach her everything that had happened since the long-gone age of the ninja villages. It was so that Makoto Uchiha became the warrior princess of the Amazons. Diana. She hoped that her beloved would one day visit her. Naruto on the other hand was busy with his work as a doctor. Bruce was learning to walk, and he did enjoy sometimes babysitting, so that Thomas and his wife would be able to go out for a little fun. It was nice for him to take care of a kid. It made him remember the few years he got to be with his eldest son. Naruto always was a kind caregiver, but never what you call cold. Bruce used to seem to love his stories he told him during his bedtime. Years passed, and with little to worry about he got into a nice comfortable pace. The Waynes had managed to make a rather nice home on his old property, and their business was really taking off. Naruto was either doing research on a new medical technique or teaching at the local medical school. It had been when Bruce was 10 years old that he wished his friend would have done, as he often told them. When in danger, slam the knife I gave you on the ground, as if you were stabbing the ground. I will come to you and help you. Bruce had asked his parents to go with him to a local movie theater. There was a movie about ninjas, and since Naruto, or like Bruce called him, his uncle told him so many interesting stories about ninjas as he grew up. Bruce was quite the ninja fanboy. He didn't understand that each lesson had a purpose. They taught him things that would help him later in life. A rather scary-looking man came out of an alley as they walked out of the movie and into the alley that led to the parking lot. He was smiling and was waving his gun in circles. Have you ever danced with the devil under the pale moonlight? Thomas had no idea what he was talking about. Oh, don't work your brain too hard. It is something that I always ask my victims before I kill them. I am funny that way. The man shot Martha first, and she was dead within seconds. Bruce was scared, but as his father was shot, a three-pronged knife fell out of his pocket. Bruce remembered what his uncle had once told his father. He slammed the knife as hard as he could on the ground, and it became stuck in the concrete that made the flooring of the alley. Silly boy, if you are going to stab someone you need to work on your aim. I am standing right over here. Not that it will matter, since you are going to die. Just as he took a flash of light, and someone dressed in strange armor, his face had a fox-shaped mask on his face. He jumped and kicked him right in the gut, and hit him so hard the guy felt he broke 3 ribs. Who are you supposed to be? A one-up hero? Not much of a hero if you couldn't save those 2 that I killed before you even got here. Naruto looked at Bruce, and touched his head in an attempt to calm him down, and make him feel better. Don't move, Bruce. Uncle is going to make the scary man go away. There is nothing to be afraid of. The guy didn't sound too impressed, and even made the mistake of calling him a liar. He began laughing like an absolute maniac. How are you going to save anyone if you are dead? Without him knowing, Naruto placed him in a that would terrify most people. The guy began to see, as the fox mask corroded away, and heard Naruto look like nothing was wrong. I can say that because unlike you, death is on my side. Why would I fear it, dear old friend? The mask fell apart, and revealed a skull where the man had expected a face, bone instead of skin, and 2 silver eyes staring at him in such a way he screamed in terror, and ran away, as if he was running from death itself. Naruto walked up to Bruce, and touched his shoulder. See, Uncle made the scary man go away. I always keep my promises, Bruce. Now come on, we need to talk to the police, give my friends, your parents a decent burial, and then you need to learn to better protect yourself, and those you care about. He saw Bruce smile. That is right, your training starts when we give your parents a decent burial. I could not do any less for the son of my dear friend, my brother all, but in blood. Now stand up, the road ahead is not easy, but we can always imagine it will lead to a brighter future. Thanks for watching my video. Leave a like if you enjoyed my video, and also do consider subscribing to my channel for more awesome content. See you next time, till then sayonara.